actually want to start going back to your playing days. What was Raheem like then in Tampa Bay? What stories can you tell me about the time?
The ones I can tell you. No, he.
Yeah, the one.
Yeah. No, honestly, he's the same person. As you know from being around him, he kind of brightens up every room he comes into, and it doesn't take long to get to know him. And he had a ton of charisma back then. Even as a assistant DB coach in 2005 when I first met him, and honestly, he's the same person. He's older and wiser now. He's 47 now, but he was 32 when he took over the head coaching job down there. But as far as the communication, the charisma, just like I said, a guy that kind of brightens up a room. That part hasn't changed.
When he calls you and he's like, hey, I want you to come to Atlanta, what's kind of going through your head in the opportunity to come be a part of the staff?
Well, I was extremely excited, number one. First of all, to work with him again. Because, last time we were together, we had some success, and then we, kind of went our separate ways in the NFL. And it was always kind of a goal to get back and work underneath him as a coach. And now that I have a chance to do that, I'm thrilled. And then, to be able to come down to Atlanta, which is, a team, I actually kind of know pretty well because I was an NFC South guy for a lot of my career. So to come down here, it's a pretty awesome opportunity.
When you kind of look at the group that you're inheriting, what immediately sticks out when you first flipped on the tape and you really started looking at it?
I think the number one thing is they're a good group that complements each other. They all have unique skill sets. Troy's probably the highest end athlete. Really, can really run, big, strong, fast, has all the measurables. Caden's probably the most versatile, where you can rush the passer, you can play in the line of scrimmage, really comfortable on third down. And then Nate's, kind of more the old school box throwback linebacker. And all three of those guys bring a different skill set, and they all played well this last year. I know Troy got hurt early on, but they were productive, and that's the biggest thing you can ask for this business is to be productive.
Yeah, I think the storyline, of course, of Nate being an undrafted free agent and kind of playing, not just playing the reps that he did, but being an impact player that he was. What stuck out to you and what has stuck out to you about, honestly, how quickly he was able to come in and make a difference? Yeah,
and I knew of him and watched him when he was at Colorado. He kind of won the game for Colorado against us in Nebraska back in 2018. So, he's played a lot of football. And, one thing, when you're in college and you're a high contact guy, you made a ton of tackles at Colorado. I think he made over 400 tackles. He's a natural football player. He's a good tackler. So if you can tackle in college, you can usually tackle in the NFL, and he's got really good instincts. He gets to the ball. It was really a good start for him in his NFL career last year.
Obviously, I know this is probably only day 3 for a lot of these guys. Y'all are going to have a lot of conversations about what direction you want this defense to go in. But when it comes to you looking at this room specifically, this is a room that had quite a bit of success last year. Even if you're looking at the defensive unit overall, had a lot of success from 2022 to 2023. What's the key to not just sustaining that level of success and level of play, but building upon it?
I think, number one, all of the guys who played a lot of minutes for us last year are younger players. Even Caden, who's, is a little bit of a vet, but, if you ask him, most of his career, he's kind of played on the line of scrimmage, more of like a Sam role. Last year was probably his first year playing extensively off the ball. So he's still, even though he's a little bit of an older player, he's got a lot of room to improve. And then same thing, Troy and Nate, they're young players. So the number one thing is just continuing to develop, your overall game. And everybody's, in the NFL, you're always going to have things you can work on the off season, things that, maybe teams targeted you with the year before. And players with pride and players that, put the work in, they take that next step. And then, hey, you got to be as versatile as you can in this league. I think that's where it's kind of trending, is how many things can you do? It's not just, I play linebacker. What can you rush the passer? Can you play man coverage? Can you affect the game different ways?
Yeah, I think that's a good point too, because even probably in the years since you've been out of the game, it's probably even transitioned even in that short amount of time too. Do you kind of feel that as well?
Oh yeah. The game, I think, it all goes in cycles a little bit, but the college game has influenced the NFL a lot over the last 10 years. And what's interesting is you're starting to kind of see the cycle go back to the original. You're seeing more teams in 21 personnel now, whereas, the last few years before this, it was a ton of 11 and 10 and spread out, and now you're kind of seeing the full circle. So it always goes in cycles, but it is cool to see how offenses evolve, and defenses have to be doing the same thing.
Obviously, I know you're going to have the opportunity to have more conversations with Jimmy like and Raheem, but just your initial impressions. I mean, Raheem's obviously a defensive guy. I mean, he's called the game for years, and so how do you see kind of their relationship, even from the outside looking in, and how they work together?
Well, they go back a long ways, and I think the number one thing is schematically, both of them have branched out and evolved probably since the Tampa days, but there's some core beliefs that are all the same, with the simplicity for the players, the fundamentals, how hard they play, the effort. That's the stuff that hasn't changed, so their core beliefs are always the same. But I am excited to see kind of where the schematics do go, because Raheem ran a different defense than he ran at Tampa in LA, and then Jimmy had a ton of success at Washington running a different defense than we did as well. So I'm excited to see how it all blends together. And we also saw the defense they played in Atlanta last year, which was very good. So it's going to be really fun as a staff to tie it all together.
We kind of talking about some stuff that I'm familiar with, some of his leadership abilities. I remember looking at him whenever he's at the University of Washington, and I went over there a couple of times, because they had like 3 sets of defensive backs when they had Kevin King in that group, and then all of a sudden when he had Trent and all that group. So you can tell he's a defensive back guy, which is really good. Just the ideas that he has, and just kind of talking conversations. I really like his demeanor on the back end.
How do you anticipate y'all can kind of pick up the momentum that you had last year, but now under new management?
Well, I mean, again, just by going and looking at what he's done at the University of Washington, and then what they did at with the Rams. The Rams secondary has always been incredible, and then when you see his leadership at the University of Washington, it was always incredible from the back end. So he understands what we did here, and just having conversations with him. The best thing is he's not going to throw out everything that we did, which is incredible. When you get a chance to talk to a guy and he talks about what he's seen us do, and he asks the questions, what did you guys do well? Let's take a look at that, and let's see if we can add that. See, that's the first time I've ever been, in my career with a change of coach, and he comes in, he asks about what you guys did. That means that he's mindful of what we were doing last year and what the good things that he want to keep. Can't say what that's going to be, but at least he did ask those questions.
Right. And in terms of the DBs and the secondary, where do you see the biggest, areas of improvement, or where they can take that next level?
Well, to me, I think one of the things that we did last year, you look at Jesse Bates, I thought Jesse took a big step for us last year, the whole season, and then we're expecting for the other guys to take those steps. Everyone is going to have to take a step up, and then Jesse's going to have to maintain what he did last year for us to get to where we got to go. And is that a big tell? No, I think guys understand where we started and what we did, and then now let's see if everybody in the room and Jesse maintain, and everybody else take the next step.
There's been obviously you and a lot of other coaches that have been retained on the staff. Have you seen that before in your tenure, and what do you think that means for continuity and all that?
Well, I mean, to me, I think having the idea of being able to come in and say, hey, Raheem, Jimmy, this is what those guys are really good at, and then can we take that and add to it? A lot of times you take this whole off season and you try to figure out what guys are. And that's when new staffs come in. They really don't know the players. They don't know anything about them. They don't see them until April. And then all of a sudden you try to figure out, okay, they're good at this, this, or this. We can kind of take a head start and say, this is what these guys are good at. This is what they can do. The film is going to relay what our message is. And now let's see if we can take April and make it better, other than having a new staff to where you're trying to figure out what guys are.
And lastly, you mentioned in one of our last press conferences that you wanted the DBs to sort of train and play basketball and do different things. Has anyone taken you up on that?
Yeah, I kind of text with some guys, and I know D was doing it. I think Richie was doing it, and again, those are things that you can have fun at, but it really helps you with your technique. It helps you with your footwork. It helps you with your spatial awareness of what's going on around you, even though you're guarding a guy. And a lot of times, coaches say, "No, just be football players." Well, you should be better than a football player. You should go have some fun when you're not doing football, and something that's helping you play football, and that's going to actually be beneficial when the season starts.
Is that something they're doing with each other or individually?
No, to me, I don't know if it's with each other, but I kind of told them, go get someone that's better than you are. Trust me, you don't want to be playing basketball with football players. You want to be playing basketball with basketball players, because those guys are good. They really good at what they craft is. If you can go play against some college guys that are really good in basketball, go play against them, because them the guys are going to help you get to where you got to go.
All right, that's all for me.
All right, thank you.
How did the deal go down for you to join Coach Morris' staff and come here to Atlanta?
Yeah, an interview. No, in all reality, Coach reached out there, put in the slip for me, and set up the interview. Had a chance to sit down and talk with Coach Morris along with Jimmy. Things went well, and shortly after they offered me a position here, my wife and I, we had a chance to sit down, weigh the pros and cons, and we saw ourselves here in a great opportunity with the roster and the people that we're going to be working with. So we're excited about it.
And were you familiar with Coach Gray at all?
Extremely.
Okay.
So I worked with Coach Gray for 2 seasons in Green Bay. You talk about a really good football coach, he's an even better person. So saw that opportunity as well and jumped at it. So looking forward to working with him again.
What does his experience bring?
You talk about knowledge and wisdom. He sees things so much faster, right? For younger coaches or even younger players, their process, he's already 2-3 steps ahead, just because he's played it, not only played it, but he played at a high level, and then he's coached at a high level as well. So wealth of knowledge.
There's been several coaches that have stuck on from the previous staff, including Coach Gray. What have you learned from them so far?
Yeah, everyone's names. Being able to introduce me to everyone, show us the lay of the land. And the biggest thing is they have a familiarity with the roster. And that's what it's about, right? Developing our talent and helping those guys take the next step forward. So I would say that's the biggest takeaway right now.
And as the secondary is currently constructed, what do you like about this? What are you liking on film?
I literally just got off the phone with Jesse probably 10 minutes ago. You talk about a phenomenal player being a pro. The guys that are in that room, the leadership that he brings, what 24 is able to do. I mean, those guys are extremely competitive, and I'm looking forward to working with them.
I'm just trying to follow the flow chart and the titles. So you will have the safeties and the corners?
Yeah, we'll tag team. I mean, you talk about, Coach Morris being a secondary guy, right. Jimmy being a secondary guy, Jerry Gray being a secondary guy, and then myself. We won't be lacking in coaches back there. So we'll be, working as a team.
How would you describe your coaching style?
Coaching style? Probably more of a teacher. In my opinion, I always want to know what guys see and how they're perceiving it and why they're doing what they're doing. Tweak things here and there, but overall I'm a teacher. Right? I want to make sure that the guys have the knowledge to go out and execute play at a high level, and obviously the confidence to do it as well. So that's all through preparation.
And obviously it's still early, but what have your conversations been with Lake, and what made you excited about wanting to work under him?
What made me excited about working with who? I'm sorry?
Lake, Jimmy Lake.
Oh, yeah. Have you watched any of his body of work? I mean, it's fun to watch. We coached a guy, Kevin King, who, when I was in Green Bay, I actually played for Jimmy in college. And you look at all the DBs that were coming out of Washington. You look at what he's been able to do, the success that he's had. It was a no-brainer for me, being able to learn from him and grow. And the things that he talks about, with our defense, playing free, playing fast, playing physical. It's what we embody. That's what I believe in, and I'm excited.
How much exposure had you had to Grady Jarrett in his game prior to being here? Is he a guy that you were aware of, had seen, whether it be at Clemson or here at any time?
I evaluated Grady in 2015 when he came out.
Yeah.
I thought he was a really good player. 2015 when he came out. He's been here for a decade now, and he's played at a high level.
Yeah.
I have not studied him from a personnel standpoint for a while, other than the fact that he's a very productive player that all D-line coaches are watching because he has some dynamic things that he does. But but I haven't studied him like I need to study him.
Right.
And I haven't really broken down his game to where, hey, these are the things you could do better. These are the things that you're really good at. And that's what I'm doing right now, is going through that.
Yeah. Same with Onyemata. David Onyemata, I assume, is probably
same thing answer. With him. You know, I've known about him when he came out of Canada via Nigeria. And I know he's a really good, productive player. Watched him with the Saints again, you know, based on where I was at. I was either in Chicago when he came out or LA. But you know who the good players are. And it shows up when you're watching opponent tape.
My very, 101 level understanding is essentially a defensive line is either, our first job is to hold this line, or our first job is to get upfield. Which way do you play?
We're going to just go kick ass.
Okay.
I mean, that's too descriptive for me. I mean, I want these guys to get their hands on offensive line and push them back and waffle those guys. That's what I want. And so however way they can get that done, each guy's going to have different traits to get that thing done. But at the end of the day, we want to create problems. We're the first line of defense in anything that you do in a combat situation. The tough guys are the first line of defense. So that's our mentality is, we're going to line up and we'll kick your ass.
What physical trait, what are you looking for then? When you're evaluating a guy, you say, I think that guy can go kick ass because of this trait, this trait, this trait.
I think the thing about the NFL is you don't get 15 number one draft picks, and you don't get $1 billion to spend on players, okay? So you have to be able to take a player somewhere in between a first pick in the draft and the last pick of the draft and find a role for him. So same thing in free agency. You can't pay guys $20 million, every guy along the front $20 million. You have to be able to pick and choose who are the guys who can help you. And that's the whole key, is finding those pieces of the puzzle. So all D linemen come in all shapes and sizes. We've had guys that have been 330 pounds. We've had guys that have been 285 pounds. Guys are 6'6", guys that are 6 feet. It just depends on what you see on tape. And if they're able to be physical at the point of attack and get after the passer in rush situations, they're going to have a place for somewhere. And you utilize the body types the best you can. And but that's the whole key to the offseason through draft and free agency, is finding those pieces of the puzzle so it all fits together. Does that work? Yeah. You too. Great to meet you too.
When it comes to what brought you here, what was it about the Falcons defensive line room that attracted you to this position?
I think it's pretty self-explanatory. Raheem had a lot to do with it. Jimmy had a lot to do with it. I felt like this is a great place to live. I was really excited to get back into the NFC, NFC South too. And so I'm, really excited to be here.
The defense as a whole took a huge step forward from 2022 to 2023. How can you add to that for 2024 personally?
I think that's what we're going through right now, is trying to figure out what are the pieces of the puzzle to improve the defense. Right now, we're always looking for ways to improve. We want to be number one in everything, all right? So it's never perfect, but we're striving to be as close as possible.
I know you were mentioning to Josh that you haven't gotten to the nitty-gritty with each individual player, but what are some characteristics that stand out about your position room?
I have talked to a bunch of the people around here, and they all talk about how together those guys have been. And what a great room, great kids, not kids, men. Now I'm showing my age now, but very, very well rounded group. We have some guys who have some experience, some young guys, and there looks like to be some guys that I feel like can do more than one job. Versatility is huge, and when you start having injuries, then you got to be able to plug guys in. You can't be a one-positional player, and versatility is huge.
And I know I heard you say you want them to kick ass. What kind of coach are you? Are you the hype in the room, or the very serious nitty-gritty? I
don't know. I kind of like to feel like I just do what I need to do for that day or that hour, whatever it is. I don't know. You're gonna have to ask the players that. It may take a little time, but you're gonna have to.
You need
to get to know me too. So, we'll release those secrets another day.
At the end of the season, we'll circle back.
Have you always been a paperboy hat guy?
I have. I love it.
No, that's a good hat.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it.
No problem. I know you mentioned, you don't necessarily have to look at individual players yet, but you have some guys that are kind of hybrid-y, You know, and so I don't know where they would even fit room-wise. Guys like Ebikete, guys like potentially D'Angelo Malone, depending how he's used. Guys even like maybe a Zach Harrison. Like, are they your deal, or do they end up somewhere else based off of the defensive scheme that you guys are trying to run?
Well, that's where we're going through the process right now, is evaluating all these players. And just like when you go through free agency or the draft, you get X player that you're talking about or you're evaluating. You're like, you know what, this may be better in this room or whatever it may be. So you're always just evaluating, see how you can use them in a role that they could be successful in. Because that, at the end of the day, is you're going to have your pieces of the puzzle on the team, on the roster, and you want to make sure that they play well too. And that's what we're going through the process right now, is just figuring out who does what.
In terms of what you look for in your defensive linemen, what do you look for, like in terms of, I mean, I know there's a general cliche characteristics that are always talked about, but like the level beyond that, like when you're looking at trying to evaluate what you think you need in the defensive line, what is it that says, okay, I need X characteristics, or I need X traits in a guy in order for him to work in what I'm trying to do, or what the defense is trying, or what Jimmy's defense is trying to do?
From a general perspective, tough, smart, rugged ass kickers that want to get off the quarterback as well. I mean, those are descriptive words that you can use. Not getting into height, weight, speed, and all that kind of stuff. You got to have those other things. There's football players in all shapes and sizes in the NFL, in college, and if they have the desire to go out there and kick ass, they're going to have a place in a roster somewhere. And so, you know, you got to have the mentality. You know, Raheem said before there's a reality, there's a mentality, and that's so true. Like, you got to set your culture a certain way, and everybody's got to be together.
Have you talked to Calais yet?
No, I haven't. I mean, I just got here. I'm trying to figure out everybody's phone number.
Fair enough.
Half the people that are leading me into this room right now, that are part of the Falcon organization, I don't know their names yet, but I'm getting there. You know, so we're getting there.
I just wasn't sure if that was kind of one, because he's probably within that room the biggest free agent that you guys have, and maybe arguably the biggest free agent within the team. I just didn't know if there was any conversation. They were like, hey, reach out to him and just talk to see if take the temperature there.
No, right now I'm watching tape. Okay. You know, that's all I'm doing right now, is watching tape, and then I'm working through after I've watched. Or I feel comfortable that I can have a conversation with guys, you know, then I'll call them and say, hey, you know, I just want to get to know you a little bit. I'm not even talking about that other stuff. You know, I just want to get to know people. You know, that's the only thing you can do at this point, because we've been here for 4 or 5 days now, and there ain't no decisions being made right now. It's just all evaluation process.
As you get further into the evaluation, are you getting more excited seeing what you've seen, or is there room to grow?
There's always room to grow, but I'm also very excited. You know, there's some players that I think have done some really good things here, and that's a credit to their development, the coaches that they had, all that stuff, the colleges that they came from, the way the personnel people have acquired players. There's a lot of reasons why, but I'm excited to be here.